The Silent Intelligence.
My name, Dan Dement. I am with Calysto Communications, Executive Vice President. I'm also working on new business development for the West Coast for a very prominent Atlanta-based telecom and mobile-focused PR agency. We also do social media and content. Content is king, and especially in the realm of IoT, people are looking to explain what's going on. A lot of people still feel we're not really sure where the players are, who's leading what, so we can actually help a lot of our clients develop content to get that message across.
So when I know that you've been doing PR for a long time, and I know you're one of the best.
Is it the gray?
And you've lived through the original wave of the internet, and then e-commerce, and then mobile. What is different about IoT from those previous waves when it comes to PR and communication strategies?
Well, very interesting. One thing, a lot of times back in the first couple of waves, as you said, it was almost an either or. You were either B2B or you were B2C.
Right.
You had a product or a service, and your core market was either directly to the consumer or it was to enterprise and to businesses. We're starting to see a lot of companies in the M2M space, right? So, but that enables the internet. Yeah, and that enables the Internet of
Might
Things.
as well say B2B is business to business, and B2C is business to consumer.
Thank you.
But
Sorry,
continue,
clarify
please, yeah.
that. I'm speaking jargon. It's my bad.
Well, oddly enough, this audience might know M2M, but not B2B and B2C.
So we're starting to see, in fact, just on the floor here, a number of companies that are playing both. It's kind of like the commercial for, I believe, Android. And.
Right.
It's no longer either or, it's and.
Right.
We are in the B2C and the B2B space because there's a product there. Whenever with machine to machine, you can monetize any data transaction.
Yeah.
It's no longer person to person. It's no longer, a device to a device. It could be a chip to a chip, and so there's a lot of playing in that. And so from a strategic standpoint in PR, that's where I see a big change is sometimes our client will have two different tracks.
Right.
You have to look at consumer audiences, which has one communication strategy, and then B2B business, enterprise communications, that has a different strategy. And then you have the overarching corporate communications, which then is kind of combination and its own beast as well.
It sounds to me like there's an enormous amount of potential to cross wires, right? Because, do you remember when Netflix tried to rebrand for online content, right? Because aren't you in a way kind of saying it's just an extension of your existing brand? And in that case, if you're IBM, Intel, et cetera, if you're one of these corporate leaders, you've got to build a moat. Right? You're not necessarily building bridges, and it just seems like there's an enormous potential for things to go wrong in messaging.
See, when you said crossing wires, the first thing I thought of was confusion.
Mixing metaphors. I'm sorry.
No. But the first thing to my mind was confusion.
Yes.
Because people, you start saying, well, we do this for enterprise, but we've also got this little, side gizmo over here that's for the consumer market.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, then, but okay, then tell me more about that, and which one are you? Where's your focus at?
Right.
And it's not impossible to do both, but you have to be very strategic about it. You have to really think things through, or you will get pigeonholed into one or the other, and then that one side that you don't maybe focus on well enough could go belly up and cost your business a lot of heartache.
Absolutely. So if I was a startup, recently funded, and had a PR budget, what are some of the things I should start thinking about to get my name out there, to get traction?
Well, first you'd want to go to Calysto.com, right? You want to think about. The reality is you're gonna have your direct marketing. You're gonna start making your sales, but then people are gonna start wanting to know who you are, and some of the clients we meet with right away, they ask a question, and I don't blame them for asking this because everybody wants to see a return on their investment, right? But it's like, how long is it going to take me before I'm in, this magazine?
Right.
You know, how long is it going to take me before we have a Wall Street Journal article?
Right.
And it's like, wow, you know, if I could tell you that,
Yeah.
I would be richer than Bill Gates. You know, if I really could promise you that and tell you exactly when that would happen.
Or if you could guarantee it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
there's no guarantees, right?
the old saying, in advertising you pay, and in PR you pray, right? And
but the integrity, the authenticity, right, is
and that's it, and that's the value. It's
exactly.
getting, you know, somebody who is well respected, you know, journalist, an analyst who covers your respective space to say, look, I've looked at these guys. Here's what they do well. Here's what they might not do so well, but here's where they fit into this ecosystem.
Right.
And I think you should start paying attention. Or if you're in this business,
Sure.
maybe you should give them a call to, you know, see if they can have a solution for you. And instead of looking at it more tactical of like what can you drive there, you need to look at it strategically.
Right.
Because you need to look at your true positioning. And
It's Simon Sinek, right? Start with why.
I love it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And not only why, but what makes you then different than the other person who has a similar why.
Right.
Because unless you can find that key differentiator, you're going to get confused with everybody else. And this is a very big space. So your positioning will drive everything else. Once you can figure out your strategic positioning, that determines your messaging, that determines the type of content you will create, that determines the audiences that you will try to reach. And what I mean by audiences from a PR perspective, the journalists, the analysts, the gatekeepers, who then control access to the buyers, you know, your potential customers. So it's a very strategic standpoint. So I would recommend, especially new startups, that, you know, it's not like when we remember the days of kind of blowing money on sock puppets, you know, and banging monkeys, right?
Of course, yeah.
Maybe careful on how you say that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I think they still have talking babies. Yeah.
that might work. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But a good ROI and being very smart about your marketing spend, it pays to take a strategic approach to PR and not just look at PR as a tactical arm that's going to get you, you know, hits there, or just, you know, you put out a ton of press releases and you get pickup. It's, I want this magazine to write an article about me by this journalist because he or she carries cachet in the industry, and let's go about it strategically and get it. And that's what a good PR agency is going to do for you.
Okay, just two more questions. To drill a little bit deeper on both of those topics. First of all, the press. Who's paying attention right now, and where do you want to be? In other words, they could be two different things, right? I mean, everybody wants to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
Sure.
I'm sure they're paying attention to a certain point, but there may be some niche media that I don't know about.
Well, there are a lot of niche medias. I mean, for example, one of Calysto's clients is in the back office.
Are you at liberty to say?
Well, you know, I'm going to just play the safe card right now because I don't want to let anything out slip about strategies and things like that. But, you know, they do the back-end automated billing for M2M.
Got it.
So they have a proprietary software that is pretty amazing that allows basically any company to monetize any data transaction that you could possibly think of.
Right.
So
where do they want to be noticed?
Publication-wise,
Yeah.
so obviously there's a number of trades. Kind of letting the hat out of the bag, or the cat out of the bag, is they'll have a byline article in Pipeline magazine in the May issue.
Okay.
I won't say, but I'll bet you can guess who helped them to get that. And there's also then the larger picture, again, whether it's a Wall Street Journal or such. So, and then you've got a lot of the tech stuff. You know, obviously TechCrunch is still relevant. You got Recode, you know, that's relevant. And so, you know, you want to make sure you're finding the right journalist at those, because just to expect TechCrunch to cover your company isn't going to happen. You have to find, you know, the journalist, the writer within that outlet that covers your space, and then get to know them. You know, get to figure out what they cover, and then maybe shoot a couple of emails like, here's what we do, you know, would this be of interest to you, and then kind of dabble in it. And then you'll find where your audiences go for information. Sometimes you just want to ask some of your customers, where do you get advice from? And then those will point out some of the up and coming trade outlets. Fierce, obviously, all the Fierce line. And those are very, very popular with different segments, whether it be Fierce Telecom or Fierce Wireless.
And finally, most entrepreneurs know what cost of acquisition and sort of the paid and the organic growth models when it comes to online advertising, search engine marketing, optimization. How does PR fit into that equation?
That's been the $60,000, or actually it's probably up with inflation now.
Tell me your view.
Public relations, the value out of it has been very difficult to measure, especially from what your typical CMO or CEO.
So social media, I mean, so there's a lot of things that are...
Well, social now, which is really great because of companies in the proximity marketing and audience engagement space. You are able to run campaigns and see the interactions. I mean, you can start seeing real-time stuff. And again, this connects that concept of proximity marketing with IoT. Because now all of a sudden, that little thing you hold in your hand is more, it's more than just your cell phone or your media player. But I mean, it's a connection to almost every marketer in the world who will know where you've been, how long you were standing in the water cooler line, or how long you're standing in the concessions line, where your seats are. I mean, where you're driving down the road. I mean, it's all these different connected devices are going to start to, if not scare you because of the Big Brother concept, but once you get over that, there's going to be a lot of benefits to it. And one of the key benefits from a business perspective is advancements in the ability to measure return on investment. Measure if you have an app or a website to see at any given time, like during the Grammy Awards or something like that, how many people are actually, when they see the Coke commercial, how many people actually logged on, watched it, engaged with it, bought something from it, merchandise. Obviously, maybe you can't measure, direct 12-ounce bottle purchases, but when they go to concession stands at a baseball game, you sure the heck can, because every little bottle could have a little UPC, code on it, and you can. So you're going to be able to start. I think in the next few years, you're going to start seeing that connection, and then public relations-wise, it's going to be smart to kind of zero in on that and figure out how do you get some sort of influential conversation happening with somebody, and then measure the results, that the takeaway. So like we're having this conversation now and I'm selling you on Calysto Communications, say, how do I measure the fact that you go back and connected your company up to be a client? When you can figure out how to do that, that's going to show a lot of value from the PR perspective. Because right now it's the old tried measures of ad equivalency, hits, things like that, and it's very difficult to transfer that into real dollars to leads, lead generation, things like that. It's difficult you almost have to internally say, how much is that front page Wall Street Journal article worth to us, brand equity wise, and set that value of you, and then if you achieve it, then you got to apply the value. It's a tough question, it really is.
Well, then I'll give you a softball for the last one. What's your favorite gizmo?
The one on that movie, where you dropped the water on them and they turned into Stripe, the mean one. Wasn't his name Gizmo? Oh. The Furball guys. What was that movie?
No, really. Internet of Things. Just to name a few. Fitbit, Apple Watch, Automatic, Hue, Philips Hue. Who's here? Adidas has an app. Nike has an app. There's the Ohm shirt. Have you seen the Ohm shirt?
I have not.
The Ohm shirt is almost like a platform for biometrics, and I could see, and Adidas just made a presentation that was fascinating. I can see entire teams now being monitored, hydration, heart rate, etc. And it's going to be fascinating to see where this stuff goes. I'll tell you right now what my favorite gizmo is. It's right here. It is.
Did you just pick one up?
No. I've had this since Christmas. This was my Christmas gift for my daughters. It is the Rip Curl Surf Watch.
Oh, nice.
It tracks every wave, tracks how far I paddled. I can post all this stuff online. Shows the Google Maps with the exact paths of my surf.
Does it give you the tide report and everything on there?
It will tell you what the tide is currently at my beach, but it won't tell me, whether the conditions are good.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. IoT.
That would be fun. I think I'm waiting for the injectables to come out. Put it in me, communicate with my doctor directly, let me know when I need to go in for my oil change.
They're coming.
They are. I'll be first to sign up.
All right, Dan Dement, thank you very much for talking with the Silent Intelligence.
My pleasure.
All right.
The Silent Intelligence. Learn more at www.thesilentintelligence.com.